Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Claw Studio at the Royal Opera House and to this Insight Ballet and the Black Experience. I'm Kenneth Tharp and I'm delighted to be here, not least because to celebrate this year's Black History Month at the Royal Opera House, Joseph Toonga, the artist appointed to the Royal Ballet's choreographic residency for 2023-24, has curated a new festival, Rhythm in Resilience, which celebrates Black excellence in the Royal Ballet over the years. Tonight's Insight is part of this festival, and it gives an opportunity for us to hear from Joseph, as well as from some of the dancers in the company. And I hope that together we'll get to know them a little better, to find out what makes them tick, and maybe discover what they've been celebrating about Black History Month. I'll also be encouraging them to share some of their thoughts on their own future and any reflections that they might have on what they want the future of dance to look and feel like. But before we begin that conversation, we'd like to begin the evening with some dance. Rebecca Miles-Stewart is a third-year student from the Royal Ballet School. She recently presented her work here in the Claw Studio as part of the Royal Ballet's draft work season earlier this month, and I'm delighted that she is going to perform for us this evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca is from the USA, and her idea of a warm welcome is probably more than some of you are used to giving. But I hope you're about to prove me wrong. You need to play your part in helping welcome Rebecca to the stage. And let me be clear that the stage direction here is not asterisk polite applause, it's asterisk loud cheers and rapturous applause. So please don't be shy. And let me warn you now, if I'm not sufficiently impressed by your contribution, I will send Rebecca back off stage, and I won't invite her back till I'm convinced that you're fully ready to welcome her. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you now. Let's do this first time, please. Please join me in giving Rebecca the warmest, heartiest, most rambunctious Black History Month welcome possible. Please give it up for Rebecca Miles-Stewart. Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. You passed the audition. Rebecca, thanks so much for joining this evening.
Thank you.
I was just telling the audience, you were here just a couple of weeks ago presenting your own work, your own choreography as part of Draftworks. Now, this evening, you're about to perform not your own work, but a piece by someone else. Tell us a little bit about that piece that you're about to perform.
Yeah, so I will be performing Imprint Maya by Dwight Rhoden. It was choreographed for Desmond Richardson of Complexion's Contemporary Ballet. And I did this piece last year as part of the Lindsay Moore Award for Expressive Dance. It's a competition that happens every year at the school, and it sort of examines our artistry and how we kind of present ourselves with a solo of our choice.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Rebecca, I'll let you get ready without further ado. Thank you very much.
We saw beyond our seeming these days of bloodied screaming, of children dying bloated out where the lilies floated, of men all noosed and dangling within the temple, strangling our guilt gray fungus growing. We knew and lied our knowing, deafened and unwilling. We aided in the killing, and now our souls dry tablets without token. My guilt is slavery's chains. Too long the clang of iron falls down the years. This brother sold, this sister's gone. Is bitter wax lining my ears? My guilt made music with my tears.
Great, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing that beautiful work with us. The work you have just watched was called Imprint Maya. The choreography was by Dwight Roden. The music was by David Rosenblatt, vocals by Melanie Naema, and prose by Dr. Maya Angelou. And it was performed by Rebecca Miles-Stewart from the Royal Ballet School. Now, it's time to welcome the rest of our panel for this evening. Please welcome to the stage, equally warm welcome as before, choreographer Joseph, but wait till I get through the names before you applaud. Choreographer Joseph Toonga, Rebecca Miles-Stewart from the Royal Ballet School, and Royal Ballet dancers Joseph Sissons, Mariana Tsembenhoy, and Francesco Serrano. Thank you.
Rebecca, that's you.
Brilliant. Make yourself comfortable. Good, and Rebecca will join us in a minute. Now, it seems, in some ways, it seems a long time ago, and in other ways, it seems like only yesterday. But 3 years ago, in October 2020, I had a conversation with three of the people sitting on stage with me during Black History Month in the Limbury Studio Theatre here at the Royal Opera House. Now, they had just returned to the stage after a good 6 months or so of lockdown, training at home in their living rooms, in their kitchens, on squares of linoleum sent to them by the company. And of course, this was also in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd. It was a very intense period in so many ways. Now, my intention is not to wind everything back or to revisit that particular conversation, but I would like to ask the three of you, what has changed for you in the last 3 years, whether in your working environment or things that may have changed for you very personally? How have things moved forward for you? Who would like to jump in?
I think there's been an awareness, definitely, from that, like since that time, which has been kind of nice to see, not only in everyday life, but like costumes and hair and back hues and things. So it's been, yeah, definitely more of an awareness.
Okay, and that thing about hair and costumes. Now, I know that sounds perhaps small, but I think it was quite a big thing. Tell us about what happened here in the company. I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think there was. I think with me and Joe, a lot to do with me personally more. Maybe it was just like I never really. For me, it was never much of a thing, getting actual like flesh, shoes or like all in one of my actual skin color. So when it kind of started developing into, we should actually maybe match it, it was like, actually, why haven't I thought about this before as well? I know Joe has his.
No, I think that's a good point. I think one thing for me, and I think a lot of dancers and having conversations with the company, which has been really great, is figuring out a way for dancers of color to not just assimilate, but to actually celebrate. And that doesn't mean like how we find a way to put our hairstyles into like a bun tighter, or how do we like jerry curl our curls to make it look like curly hair. For me, it was more, for me personally, in the last did you say 2 or 3 years? I don't even.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
I blocked it out.
Yeah.
I blocked the pandemic out. But I think, for me personally, I speak for myself, but I think a lot of black people around the world and people of color there was a reckoning that happened 3 years ago. And it didn't just happen 3 years ago. It's been happening since the beginning of time. But I think for me, I sat in my blackness a little bit more, and I was given the opportunity, because it happened during the pandemic, to really sit down and think about how I turned up authentically as myself. And like I said, to not assimilate, but to celebrate. I think there are plenty of ancestors. It's very important that, for me personally, that I make sure that when I go on stage, or when I'm dancing, or whether I'm out in the world and I'm teaching the kids and stuff like that, that I'm not only celebrating myself, but thinking of Eric Underwood, who came before me, Fernando, Marcelino, Carlos Acosta, like for me personally, because I think I have a certain amount of privilege as a light-skinned dancer as well, is how do I not just assimilate, because it would be quite simple to assimilate. How do I push it a little bit further so that when someone who does come is really struggling with it, I've pushed it so far that it's not such a problem for them in 5 years?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the situation.
And before I come to you, Mariana, Joseph, first of all, let me just tell the audience this. What I'm aware of was that there was quite a very formal, conscious move made by the artist director, Kevin O'Hare. A survey was done of every single dancer in the company, not just the dancers of color, but every single dancer of the company, about asking them what they felt about costume, hair, makeup, and how they wanted to be represented when they go on stage. I think this was the first. I don't think anything like that had happened before. And certainly from the outside, what I witnessed over the coming months, some of the dancers I follow on Instagram, and suddenly I was seeing pictures, for example, of you, Joseph, doing lead role in Romeo and Juliet with your hair in cane rows. I'd never seen that before. And funnily enough, the world didn't grind to a halt. Things kept going. And I just thought, yes, it's happening. Marianne, I know we talked about you wearing flesh-colored tights and wearing hair that is more like your own. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, sure. So we did have an open conversation with Kevin O'Hare, just like you mentioned, and also leaders of the hair and makeup department, costume department, shoe department. And I felt that they wanted me to feel comfortable with whatever decision I made. I didn't feel like I had to be 100% sure with what I wanted to do for certain roles or certain performances. There is always this flexibility. And if I feel more comfortable wearing pink tights and pink shoes for some classics like the Nutcracker, for instance, or the Sleeping Beauty, I am able to do so. And if I'd like, for instance, in Kenneth Macmillan's ballet like Marling or Manon, I would prefer to wear skin color tights and point shoes just because we are representing real human beings. Yeah. So it's not like I'm playing a snowflake in the Nutcracker. So that's my philosophy behind the choices that I make. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing in there, really importantly, from both of you, and I'm sure it applies to everyone, is the fact that you had choices and a range of choices that weren't open to you before. I think that's so important. I'm going to pause that because I do have something else I'd like to say on that, but I think Rebecca's ready to join us. So, Rebecca, please welcome her to the stage. And we will come back to that hair representation theme in just one second, but thank you so much for your performance, Rebecca. I'd just like to ask you one question about that, is what made you choose that work in particular? What was it that drew to it, and what is it like to perform?
Yeah, so I think initially it's a contemporary work, and I have a background of doing all kinds of dance. So I think for the Lynn Seymour, I kind of wanted to go back to my roots and do something that kind of came from within me. Another thing about the solo is that it's dedicated to the legacy of Maya Angelou and sort of her mission to kind of forward our excellence and what she stood for. So leading up to doing the Lynn Seymour last year, I spent every night watching her recite any poem. I think I listened to Still I Rise probably hundreds of times by now. But I think that really just helped me get into her character and see from what was inside me, see what I could kind of draw out and what I could connect with, the lyrics and the message, and then kind of how that related to my own experiences. I found that there was a lot within there that I related to. And I think it was such a challenge because of the intricacy of the movement, but also very freeing because it felt like it was part of my heritage, sort of the message of the work, and it was a joy to be able to perform.
Well, it was a joy to watch you to perform, and I think when you're watching in the audience, you really feel it when someone owns it, and I think you own it when you feel authentically connected to it and feel it's yours, which I think you did beautifully. Well done.
Thank you.
This is something that we spoke briefly the other day, and I gather that you being here for this Insight talk is something of a full circle, if I remember correctly, because you actually watched the previous Insight talk before you came to the Royal Ballet School when you were still in America. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I was in the midst of lockdown. I was 14 years old, and I had not even joined the school yet. So it was sort of a time when I was watching as many videos as I could online. So I was watching as many insights, as many Royal Opera House streams, World Ballet Day as I could, because I had aspirations of joining the school. So I was trying to get as close to it as I could from America. So when this Insights came up 3 years ago, I immediately knew that I was going to watch it and that I was going to connect with it and draw a lot of inspiration from it. I think just being able to relate to the experiences that all of the dancers shared was so comforting to me because I had not seen that before. A panel of successful Black dancers sharing their experiences and their stories. And that was something that was so inspiring, and it kind of kept me moving forward. So now training for 2 years, and now this is my 3rd year at the school, and being able to be a part of this is really a full circle moment. So it's almost like a dream come true, in a way.
That's wonderful. Now, I do want to just bring us back briefly to that, the thing about costume, hair, and makeup, because I think within there are so many things contained within it. Joseph, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this. We've talked about it before. But one of the things that really gave me huge joy was to see one day when you posted on your Instagram account a picture of you in the Nutcracker wig. Now, the Prince and Nutcracker wears traditionally a platinum blonde wig. Now, I know that one of the other principals in the company managed to negotiate not to wear it at all. Joseph had another solution to the problem, and he ended up getting a wig specially made in cane rose. And on your Instagram account, you remind me, what you said something here. You said.
Quote me.
It was incredibly overwhelming to feel the history on my head. Black styles are not just a form of self-expression, they are an act of love for a culture that has survived and thrived through obstacle after obstacle. This is not about me, not at all. It's about taking my culture on stage with me, the ancestors that fought for our freedoms and gave me my gift, the black dancers who came before me and fought for my place in the dance world. It was wonderful to see that there's something that could seem so trivial, it's just a wig, actually had so much more resonance for you. Is there anything more that you'd like to say about that?
You almost made me emotional on 2 different accounts then. You came to me as soon as I teared up about Rebecca, and now I'm tearing up about that comment. I think for me it was kind of like, it was my first Prince role. And it's been a dream of mine to be a Prince. I've dreamt of being like a classical principal of the Royal Ballet since before I can remember. So it was definitely, my dream was in my hand as well, and I was like, I'm the prince, and something was going on because obviously we'd had 2 years prior to the pandemic and everything that was going on, and I was like, there's something else here. Not only can I do the prince, a principal role in the Royal Ballet, which I can't believe I'm able to do from where I come from, how do I do it and, like I said, hold my culture on my head? And for me, for some reason, I have no idea why, but hair means a lot to me. And I think it's from my Jamaican heritage, and the fact that, for example, I can be a ballet dancer at the Royal Ballet and have dreadlocks on my head. Like, I remember having jokes with my friends, and I was like, I'm going to be the first principal of the Royal Ballet with dreadlocks. Like, watch this. And when I was leading up to that role, it was like, I need to push this further. Something feels right. And when I was really, really young, I had cornrows till I was about the age of 13. And no one told me to, absolutely not. But I've kind of felt a pressure because of what I was seeing in the ballet world to shave off all my hair. And I used to have this beautiful hair that went down to my shoulders. Everyone would mistake me for a girl. But it meant a lot to me, and I think it was a way for me to connect to a heritage, which is my Jamaican heritage, which I didn't have any connection to when I was younger. So it was a way of me being like, this is who I am, and I shaved it all off, and then I joined White Lodge. And no one told me to in any way, shape, or form, but I felt the pressure to. So it came like a full circle moment when we went into Nutcracker, and I was like coming into this dream space of like, I can't really believe this is happening. And I was like, there's something, the little boy in me wants to do this in cornrows again. I want to connect to him again. So it was very emotional for me. I mean, in that post, I was like crying in the photo because it did feel like I'd come back to who I was, and there was no assimilation. There was just, I mean, again, like pure celebration of who I am and who we are and what it represents for us to be here now. And that doesn't mean we have to be grateful for it every day because we belong here, but it is just very special. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, as mentioned earlier, I think earlier, we have 2 Josephs in the room, and the other Joseph sitting on my left has been incredibly patient, waiting for me to come to him. Joseph, it's your moment. First of all, I want to say huge congrats on your residency here with the Royal Ballet. It's now your 3rd year in that position. And also for curating this month-long festival for Black History Month. And before we talk about those things in detail, I'd like to take us back to the beginning of your journey and talk a little bit about how you found your way into dance. Now, I know you were born in the Cameroon in West Africa, and that you came here to the UK at a young age. And I've always sensed that you're very proud of your Cameroon heritage.
Sorry. I think for me, I think my mum always instilled that, remember where you're from and be proud of, where I am now. I always say to people, I'm from Cameroon, but I'm also British, I'm Black British. So it's enjoying both those identities. Like in the house, my mum only spoke, her tribal language, Bassa and French, and outside, I had to speak English. So it was always maintained in the house.
Yeah. Thank you. And the other thing I know, because we've known each other a while, haven't we? I also know that you originally aspired to be a footballer, and that you originally did dance as a punishment. Tell us a little bit about your beginnings and how you did find your way into that.
Yeah, so I come from a sporting family. My mum was a professional handball player, so if you know what that is, she played for Cameroon and that, and my auntie, her sister, played professional football. So it's just like I went into sports, and I think what happened in where the environment I was in, playing football had an association with certain things. So if I played football, I was around a certain crowd, and a certain crowd, we'll get up to no good, we'll do stuff. So in school, I wasn't always the best behaved student, and got in trouble. And then I think because they knew I loved sport, one of the things, actually, let's do something different, do dance. And did it. Lucky enough, it was a breaking class, so it was a bit physical. I kind of liked it, but I didn't want to admit to anyone that I liked it. And then it was only later on that I got really into it once one of my teachers kind of saw that, that was bringing more of a positive light into me as a person, and kind of fought for me to do more dance with my mum, and kind of bought, not a mentor, I don't think she purposely did it, but bought someone who I could look up to, who was, a young black student support teacher who liked dance, and kind of took me and one of my friends who called it under his wings, and kind of supported us, through our dance journey in secondary school.
Yeah. And then the next bit of your journey after secondary school, you were at New Vic College, yeah?
Yeah, when New
Sixth
Vic.
form college,
Then
now
went
Newham
Lewisham.
Sixth Form, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you went to Lewisham College.
I went to Lewisham
And then you
College.
ended up on a 3-year vocational course at the London Contemporary Dance School. I'm
Yeah.
telling his story for him. So, you come from hip hop, you go to 3 years at a contemporary dance school. How did that feel?
It was okay. Do you know what? It was okay in terms of, I was lucky enough that in a London Contemporary, I had some close friends that I grew up with. So it made it a bit easier to know that when we're struggling, I've got my mate on the right, I've got my mate on the left. We still all went back to Newham, so...
And what were the kind of things that you struggled with?
Income. Bloody hell, it was expensive. It was a King's Cross. We used to bump the trains. Just, knowing that you come from, just a different background, and walking into the class and realizing, you're bigger than most. And how do you deal with, everyone just looking at you like, oh, crap, you're big. I'm like, yes, I know, congratulations. And, so so it was dealing with all that, but because we had, some of my friends beside me, it made it a bit easier to just navigate the 3 years there and know that, my end goal is to, not prove to myself at first, but it's prove to my mum that if I'm going to take this dance serious, I'm going to make income from it, and I'm going to do something positive with it. And I think that was my first, motivation, because my family, I was the first one for my mom to go to uni, first to do most stuff. So it was just proving to her, I can do something that maybe you didn't, imagine me doing when you came to this country. And yeah. So.
And I know from our conversation, Joseph, you've talked about the importance of key people who've acted as sort of guides, mentors, or who've given you that extra bit of support, and how important that's been.
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to have had a few. So I've had Kenrick and Mikey from Boy Blue. I've had, of course, I've said Justin Gordon, who was at Lister. But surprisingly, I met Wayne when I was 19, doing a youth project in East London. And I think ever since then, it's not that he took me under his wing, but he always kept the door open, if I needed any kind of support. So it's kind of weird that coming here, he's also there, and on a much, bigger guy. It's like 16, 17 years later. So it feels like, yeah, weird that I was in the space when I was 19 and now I'm here when I'm 34. So yeah, very interesting.
And what are the challenges of stepping? I'm going to come to Mariana and Francesca in a minute because I want to go back to your beginnings as well. But just one more question, Joseph, because before we lose that thread, what is it like coming to into an environment where, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you feel like an outsider?
Yeah, I did. If I'm being honest, at times I still do, but I think what is nice is, some of the people in this space that, have communicated with me, because I've been of a space where as soon as you're the choreographer, somehow the performers don't want to talk to you. So you're kind of left to do your own thing, and I think it's people have opened up, listened, understand, it is, a journey, and we're here as a collective. So I think it's not even about them, oh, Joseph, do you want to sit down? It's more about knowing that you're in the space and we can just say hello and understand, we're on this journey, being in this, this dance world, this institution. So I think that's what's made it more, comfortable and more actually, I belong and I have a voice in the space as much as anyone else.
Yeah. And, Joseph was talking about perhaps the unspoken pressures to assimilate. Have you felt in any way that you've had to, leave part of yourself outside the door, or is that something you've resisted?
I can't do that. I can't.
That's the one.
Really, the regular little job. No, do you know what? I can't. Do you know what's funny enough? I was speaking to someone in the corridor, and of course, when we get into the conversation, I started speaking a bit more slang. And he was like, Joseph, you're a resident artist at the Opera House, and you're talking to me like bruv. And I was like, I can't. Like, it's habit, and, we're comfortable, we're talking, it's who I am. And, it's not that I adjust, but I understand, there's certain environments where I can't call someone bruv. So, but if I'm in a corridor and you approach me, hey,
I can see you've got a lot of support from the audience on that. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because so often when we talk about artists, we talk about people, wanting people to be authentic. That's the golden prize, isn't it? Someone is authentic. And yet, oh yeah, we want you to be authentic, but just leave that bit at home. We just want that bit of your authenticity and not the whole thing. Mariana, tell us about your beginnings, because I know from previous conversation you had a very particular dance. Tell us where, when, how, the beginning of your dance journey.
Well, I was born in Kiev, in Ukraine. Born and raised there, and I joined the Royal Ballet School when I was 16 years old. I was lucky enough to win a scholarship after the Youth America Grand Prix competition that supported me during my years at the Royal Ballet School. But of course, growing up in Ukraine and being a student at a private ballet school, I was the only kid of color. But at the same time, I didn't feel like I didn't belong because my friends never made me feel like I was different to them. So I was comfortable in my environment where I grew up and where I danced. I didn't feel like and growing up, I started to realize from people that were, having a conversation with me, obviously about my future in dance. And I soon enough realized that I possibly had to change my environment.
Yeah. You were given a very clear signal, weren't you? That if you wanted anything more than character parts, you might have to look elsewhere?
Yeah. And, it did make me grow up faster and probably reconsider what steps I should take in order to make the most out of the career that I want. Given the opportunity to study at the Royal Ballet School and joining the Royal Ballet Company was a life-changing experience. I am extremely happy to be a part of such an incredible, huge machine. And now, I am here to try and take steps and have more and more conversation to make sure that I make a difference within the environment so that generations that come after me do not go through what I went through. So that's my main goal.
And we'll probably talk more about what's next in the future. But what for you? Any other things when you think about what still needs to happen? What are the kind of things that you would like to see change? Whether in this particular environment or in the wider ballet or dance world, or generally.
Well, I think it's just about getting used to seeing diversity on stage. So learning about different backgrounds, and it's not particularly just about Black people, it's about other cultures as well, and other nationalities. And we are lucky enough to work in an organization that has so many different nationalities. So it's just about gaining knowledge and maybe also being curious, asking questions, why that decision was made, what is behind that decision, like me wearing skin color tights and point shoes or a certain hairstyle. Why do I differ to my colleagues, to other people on stage? And I think this is how we can make a change.
One thing I've never understood as to why it took so long to address the thing about pink tights, but in particular, is because if you're thinking not about the moral thing, but just about the aesthetics. If the aesthetic, my understanding of the aesthetic in ballet is to have the longest line possible. So if you've got dark skin all the way down your leotard or whatever, and then pink tights, that chops the body up immediately. So what I can't understand is why when people looked at it, they didn't go, well, that really doesn't work, does it? We need to sort that out. And somehow it's taken so long, hasn't it, to address that?
Yeah, well.
And I know you can't really, there isn't really it's sort of a rhetorical question. I'm not expecting you to answer that. Francesca, I'd like, tell us a bit about how you got into dance.
I started a bit later. I was playing sports, a lot of sports, baseball and swimming and American football when I was younger. And then I stopped for some reason. I just kind of, fell in love with it, with baseball. And my mom said I kind of needed something to do. And she was teaching at this ballet school. And the first thing I did was a partnering class. And it was me and another friend of mine that his sister also danced there. And the girls, we were skinny little 10-year-olds, and the girls' waists were up here, and we were trying to, partner them. And in the difficulty, we also kind of found it really funny and fun. And we ended up coming back the next week and slowly kind of transitioned into doing class. And we did hip hop, we did jazz, and all sorts of things. So yeah, that's how ballet kind of got into my life. Not it wasn't you have to do it, but it was just kind of let's just see what kind of happens, and yeah, ended up sticking with it for a while. So.
And were there any particular barriers for you at that age?
No. Where I come from in Florida, it's I'm Cuban American, and in Florida the diversity is it's a mixing pot of people come from everywhere, so it was never really a conversation. It was never a what do you identify as or any of this. It was just kind of normal. I think the first time someone asked me oh, what do you identify as was here when I came to London, and I think I honestly said I don't know. It was never something that we talked about, and it wasn't necessary to kind of explain. And especially coming from Cuba as well, that's another massive mixing pot where you have all sorts of kinds. So it was never had a barrier, never had a difficult time, honestly. So yeah, I think it was very different from maybe some people's upbringings, but.
Right. Great. Listen, one of the things I think it's really important to touch on, because I know that for some of you, this is a really important part of your work and your mindset. It's thinking about the next generation and thinking about that pipeline of talent. I'm referring in particular to one of the programs that started recently, and I'll share this with the audience, that a new program called Chance to Dance Connect is a brand new talent development program building on and adding to the well-established and long-running Chance to Dance program, which has been going for over 30 years and was originally started on the back of a visit of the Dance Theatre of Harlem. The Connect program is for young ballet dancers aged 10 to 15 years from global majority heritage who would like to explore the possibility of a professional career in the art form. Now, some of you have been working and teaching on this program very recently. Who would like to talk to that?
I will. I mean, I love the program. One of our, the leader of Chance to Dance, Ruby, is also our diversity and inclusion officer as well, and she does a fantastic job. And one day we kind of sat down and we kind of had this brainstorm, and it kind of came to both of us that we were just wouldn't it be insane if there was a summer school situation that was majoritively people of color and different ethnicities, and it was just like a fly away. And then Ruby and her entire team are incredible, because before you know it, there was an entire proposal put forward, an entire program, and it was held in the Royal Ballet Upper School. Which is some of the photos, and the kids were incredible. I think it was very moving for me and quite emotional, because even just little things like walking into the Linden studio and smelling olive oil, hairspray, a wave of, because everyone's parents had come. And obviously, we all know that I've sprayed this down to olive oil, and I had just got a whiff of it as I walked in, and I kind of weirdly had this moment of being I've never smelt that in a ballet play. I feel at home. Does someone put the jerk chicken on? So it was beautiful, and seeing the kids make friendships that will last for their entire careers as well. Like you say, I mean, me and Fran have been at schools together since we were 16. Other dancers I've known since White Lodge. You make really integral relationships that will stay with you. And we all stay in touch from school and upper school and White Lodge. And you always, if you're going somewhere across the world, you can message someone and be like, bruv, do you have a flat? And someone's like, yeah, in Belgium, I do. So to see the little 12-year-olds make their best friends and cheer each other on. And I think what was most beautiful about the program was, again, it was a space for them. At the end of each day, I mean, we got hold of the speakers in the biggest studio, and we started putting I Got Five on it, and a group of 14-year-old kids suddenly spiked up, and they were like, this is home, this is where we belong. And I was teaching them, and I was teaching them rep, and I was teaching them class, but then I sat there getting down with them, and it was like we were speaking that they could belong. And it wasn't any kind of assimilation. It wasn't any kind of, here's a program for you to go through, but leave a piece of yourself at home. The most beautiful part about the program and the way it was organized was they all came as themselves.
Great.
And it was a complete faculty of teachers of color, which was really important. And we had Monique from New Adventures, Matthew Bourne's, because it was very important as well that we didn't just give a classical side. We gave a contemporary dancer as well, and she's incredible and she speaks so articulated. So to see the young girls looking up to this incredible star who looked like them, it was like seeing the seeds of the future generation of black performers. And to see the beginning of that, I'm just honored. And I think we were all very honored in that program.
And can I just ask, how many of you, at what stage were you first taught in the studio by a person of color? How long did you have to wait for that?
Well, I moved the country.
Yeah. Just.
My dad taught me, and he's my skin color, so
okay.
Day one, I guess, I don't know.
I think it was you.
Okay, summer school.
I think it may have been you.
Before you came.
I don't want to miss anyone out. I will go
No,
home and be
okay.
like, I missed someone. But
Yeah.
I think maybe,
Yeah.
well, Kenneth taught me when I was 13.
It was
Right,
just before you came
yeah.
to the Royal Ballet
Yeah.
School. It was on the summer school at White.
Where I got my place.
Yeah.
So I think that may have been.
Yeah. And you, Rebecca?
I think for me it started when I first started dancing.
Right.
I came from a very predominantly black community, so I was lucky enough to have a lot of black teachers who had careers in dance and ballet. And I think they taught me a lot about how to conduct myself, and they pushed me. I feel like they saw something in me that I didn't really see in myself yet, because I was just like 11 or 12 and was just thinking about the next day. So I think for me, I was very lucky to have a lot of teachers of color, and they really pushed me and they taught me to be kind of the dancer and the person that I am, and just conducting myself in a space, in a room, you know, just hair, makeup, everything put together. I think that's so important. So, yeah.
You know, some of members of the audience, you'll have probably all heard at some point the phrase about the white gaze. What it is perhaps meaning by that, I mean, what it is, for example, as a person of color, to constantly to have eyes on you that are different to you. Not the eyes, but, you know, just if you're in a predominantly white environment. I think it's hard to, I was thinking about this recently, and I realized that it wasn't until my final year of training at the London Contemporary Dance School that I was taught for a whole year by a amazing black American dancer, Bill Luther, who'd come from the Graham Company. And I still can't fully articulate it, I think, but I'm going to just try. I want to just at least try and make the point that the feeling of what it's like for the first time in your life to have someone look at you as an aspiring professional dancer and just to automatically feel, regardless of anything they say, a sense of acceptance for who you are, as you are, and not thinking, oh, I bet they're looking at you, you know, thinking I'd be better if I had floppy blonde hair that did this, and if I was like, you know, if I was like, and it's a very powerful feeling, and I think in different ways we're all acknowledging that in different forms at the moment. I also just want to acknowledge, because we don't have time for Q&As, but there are some people in this audience who have been doing what you've been doing on this program for some years. We've got Mark Eli from Portobello Dance, and we've got Sandy Bourne from the Black British Ballet Project, and we've got Cheryl Dynot, former dancer with EMB. There are people, Ben Love from Ballet Soul. There are people who are absolutely committed out there. And my own view is it needs a whole village to make this happen. It's going to take commitment from so many of us to make that happen. And I hope that you here on stage will get a chance to talk to some of those people afterwards and make that connection if you haven't already. Joseph, can I come to you just thinking about this season that you curated? Tell us about the title of it and why you called it that, and what was your overall intention behind this season?
I'm not going to take credit for the title. It was the filmmaker. It was one of his titles that he had, and I was like, Harrison, can I use it, please, for the festival? Because I couldn't make up one. So yeah, But I think the purpose of the festival was, if I'm being honest, I've been here for coming to 3 years now, and there wasn't really anything celebrating Black History Month from the time I was here, apart from a few, you know, images and stuff, and, you know, food. There was curry gold and stuff, but I'm from West Africa, so I'm like, I need something else. So I'm just saying. So I came with a proposal to Kevin to say, it would be really nice that before I came here, I never knew these guys existed in the company. Didn't know. So it's until I walked in the first day and saw, and I was like, and I went back home and I said to my partner, crap, there's people, you know, who look like me in this company, and I didn't know that. So for me, it was a surprise, and I think it was more about doing this festival about celebrating the fact that, you know, they are here. They just, you know, need more spotlight to see that they're here. And I think this festival is about bringing that out to say, no, we want to get to know more about the performers, who they are, their journey. Because I think if you always find out something more personal about someone, you always feel a bit more invested. So I think that's the point of the festival, is about actually just seeing hints of, what's important to them. And that's the overall gist of the festival.
So I know with your own company, Just Us Dance Theatre, and for some of the programs that you've run, like Artists for Artists, I know how invested you are too in constantly putting down the ladder for the next generation, for empowering them. And I know that that's part of your personal culture and belief, but I think it's also quite embedded in the hip hop culture. Anything you want to say about that?
Kind of answered it for me. It's just, that's always been part of my upbringing, and like I was saying earlier, is coming here. My mum has someone who I used to call grandma, and I actually thought she was my grandma, but it was actually someone who took my mum, under her wings when she first came to this country to help her, navigate herself, and took me in the summer, and I spent most of my summer with her. So it was seeing those effects that actually someone who wasn't blood but wanted us, to do well, to succeed in life, is always like imprinted itself onto me. So when I go into spaces, I always want to make sure that, yes, I'm benefiting from being in this space, but who else can benefit from being here with me? So having this festival and having yourself, having Rebecca, their work being shown is that actually it's about us and not about I. So that's something that I constantly try to make sure that's part of my practice.
Yeah, the phrase I've heard often used in the hip hop sector is each one teach one. Mm-hmm. Okay. I would love to just spend the last few minutes of this conversation just thinking about the future and what next. I'm going to ask this as openly as I can to our speakers, which is, could you maybe just say something about either what's next for you personally, what you're aspiring to, or what your wishes are maybe for the next stage of this journey that we're on in developing dance, making it more inclusive, making it more open, making it more welcoming to people who may not traditionally have been felt easy to be part of that. Think about what next. Please jump in there.
I'll start. So for me, I'm in my last year at school, so it will be moving on to the professional world, starting my career. Not sure where I'm going yet. I'm in the midst of audition season, but that will be my next step. I think my hope for the future, though, is just more of these conversations, having them streamed online for so many people to be able to view. I think it's such a blessing. For me, seeing it all those years back was such an eye-opening experience and such an inspiration again. I'm so blessed to now be here and to be speaking, and I hope that this inspires someone else watching to continue on with their journey. So.
Well, I think that's... thank you, Rebecca. I think you've got a bright future ahead of you, not only as a dancer, but just from the way you've spoken this evening, I think you're going to be a fantastic ambassador for so many causes. I really wish you the best of luck. I'll be watching with eagle eyes and enjoyment for whatever you do next. Francisco.
Kind of something what Mariana said, jumping onto that is the diversity on stage, but also off stage in the audience. I've never seen such a diverse, group of audience, and it's amazing. It's nice to see, and it feels good, and that's, I think, something that we should also focus on. I think with like the evenings we've had with Draftworks and some of the classes and stuff Joe's doing, I think everything's kind of going the right direction, and doing things more things like this, and inviting a bigger group of people, and showing them that it's they're also allowed and everyone's welcome, and we want them here. Everyone wants to be here. If they want to be here, just join, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Great. And apologies, calling you Francisco instead of Francesco. Please forgive me.
Oh, it's all right.
Joseph.
I think for me, I think I've figured out a way of, since our last conversation, to kind of compartmentalize my work and how passionate I am about this and my career at the same time. Like I was juggling both of the... And now I've kind of find my way with that I am very career driven, and I have a lot of goals and things I want to take on as well as that. So that would be my next step. But also, I think to just keep on doing what we're doing in a way. I mean, it's pretty insane that Rebecca is here with us and she watched our Insight 2 years ago, and to hear the impact that that had on you. I think sometimes we forget when we're considering about what we should be doing or like questioning our first impulses on what to say and how to feel and stuff like that, that it's better to be as authentic and truthful in the moment, because if it comes out and it means that you are here in this studio and you gave that performance, like it's all worth it. I mean, you were beautiful, and I think the whole audience could feel it on their skin, like, pardon the pun, but like it was stunning. And to know that we had, I mean, not that we had a part in that, but to just feel like that was a full circle moment is pretty special. And I think, well, we've had conversations and we're having conversations in the building that I have goals, and one of them would be at some point in the future that we have a gala at the Opera House on a stage that is from all the incredible ballet dancers of color from around the world, and we all come to one stage for an evening. And it's been a dream of mine to be a part of that and to see it. And I'm really excited because there are conversations going on and we're trying to find a way to do it. And I think to hear what our conversation had the impact on you, I just, in my head, I'm going like, well, the impact of an evening like that, and inviting the kids to see that and knowing that they can achieve anything, absolutely anything, like a dance like that. Like, I don't know, the sky's the limit. I mean, look at how far we've come, and we've always got places to go and conversations to have and to push our boundaries, but I never imagined that we'd be even in this place. So that's pretty special. And
kind of quick barometer check from the audience, a quick clapometer on how, if you'd like to see that idea happen.
That's the one.
Thank you. I think that was a very clear signal. Mariana, thoughts about the future?
Yeah, just to echo what all of these beautiful guys said, of course, to inspire younger generations, and just to be there for them if they have any questions, just to guide them through the process, but also to be able to one day look back at the process that we've done to get to the point where us being in space is a new normal. So that it's not just about, oh, okay, I'm doing this because of this and that. We are a part of a community, a ballet environment in this case. And just so that we do celebrate diversity, and then, so that there is no question, oh, you know, they're different to these guys. No, so that it's a new normal. We celebrate different backgrounds, nationalities, and there is no question why. You know.
Thank you so much. And lastly, but not least, Joseph. I'm just going to tell the audience, Joseph is one of the busiest people I know, and when we were preparing for this, we were actually having sort of Zoom conversations when Joseph was in Vancouver, and so it was 2 a.m. for him. So that's his dedication. Joseph, I know you've got some big things coming up both here and abroad. Just tell me what you're looking forward to in the future.
I'm looking for in the future the premiere of the new work in Feb. That's got to be interesting. So
here?
Yeah, it's here in February. Tickets will come out soon. I don't know when. I think you have to check the website. I think for me also, just to follow on, it's what I'm looking forward to is having more makers of color come into the company and other companies as well. And that's one of the things I try to do, whichever company I visit, is who is, going to be my assistant, my collaborator, but do you have a local artist who, you can provide a space for them to come with me in the space? I think that's something that I'm looking forward to pushing more from a choreographic side, and also just supporting some of the guys' vision. So I'll say again about what Joseph's talking about his gala. I first heard about it like a year and a half ago. So I'll plug it here to the Opera House and Royal Ballet and Kevin, everyone. But yeah, but I think it's just something really important for it to happen, because even just looking at this image, I was in the session with them and I realized how important it was stepping into the room and seeing a group of, diverse background faces who really love ballet. And I think that for me struck me, and I know that if you see a space in a performance of people who look like you, that can have a great impact. So I think for me, it's trying to make sure in my position where I am to support those ideas as much as I can and say things that maybe others are not allowed to say, and just get other allies to say it on my behalf as well.
Thank you. Well, I knew the time would go quickly, and sadly, it is that we have reached the end of our conversation. Thank you so much. It's been really brilliant to be in conversation with you all, and thank you, Rebecca, for performing. I think it's clearly there's so much that has been left unsaid, but I think what I will take away from this is just how much there is actually to celebrate already, and how much these artists are doing to move things forward each in their own way. And I really applaud them and salute them. It's a joy for me to see. If you've enjoyed this evening's Insight, there are tickets, I hope, available for another Insight that is also part of this Rhythm in Resilience Festival. And that conversation will happen on the 26th of October with director and founder of Ballet Black, Casa Pancho. Yeah, I would say tickets may be close to selling out, but you may be able to get returns. If you don't manage to get tickets for that, there is also a Family Sunday on the 22nd of October, so that's this weekend coming. And there is a Live at Lunch on the 27th of October, which is given by the Black British Ballet Project, Sandy Bourne, who's here, I think. And do watch the brilliant film by Harrison Emanuel, which features Joseph and Francesca and Mariana and Joseph. Do watch that, it's great. Thank you to our guest this evening. Thank you to our beautiful dancer. Thank you to all of you in the audience. You have been a wonderful audience, really engaged and very supportive. So thank you to our audience, both in the Claw studio here and our audiences online around the world. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's Insight. Thank you very much and good night.